Afterland. Desolate.
You are listening to B.L. Norris's Afterland Desolate on Bedlam Audio. Chapter 5, Fire and the Priest.
The priest wore a heavy singed robe that hung loose on his thin frame. A large, ornate cross hung around his neck. He stood tall and erect behind the pulpit as he looked out at the throng of 100 people hanging on to his every word. These were his worshippers. They were the embers. His face was partially hidden by the heavy hood of his robe and the shadows. His hollow eyes burned with intensity.
Brothers and sister of the embers, Gilgamesh is drowning in its own lies and filth, wrapped in the smoke of deceit. In time they will all be consumed, for I am the one true servant of God, and he has bestowed upon me the power of judgment.
The priest slowly held up his hand and whispered Ignivar, and the hand ignited like a torch. Whispers and prayers rose from below the pulpit.
Their missiles weren't enough to kill me. No, I rose,
he bellowed, nose flaring.
But I defied the odds. When my cross became too much to bear, I doused it with gasoline and set myself ablaze.
The priest threw back the hood from his face, exposing the full destruction of his charred skin.
I am Lazarus. I am the Word.
His voice was a thunderous rumble.
The false prophet, vile heretics, they send rumors by whispers, lies that lay on sweet tongues, offering false salvation. But I have seen the truth. I have been burned by the light, and we together will burn to ash all that is false. Burn it from the face of this earth.
They say Ashwire is awake. He is free and coming to Gilgamesh, a church member said. The priest's hand trembled as he gripped the lectern.
This legend, this great ghost, is a lie from the devil himself. If this Ashwire steps foot into our part of Gilgamesh, Piran is ours. Piran will be defended. If this Ashwire comes, he will be bathed in fire. This I swear.
The priest looked down his nose at their expectant faces. He was the closest thing they had to a god. They called him Cindersaint, the fire prophet.
Today, my brethren, I will show you what we do to heretics. Bring in the Gutland filth,
Cindersaint rasped. The heavy wooden doors opened, and 2 forlorn giants entered. Half carrying, half dragging a wild-eyed, wiry, elderly man wearing nothing but a soiled loincloth. He kicked and screamed, but was held securely by the wrists as he was hauled before the congregation. Cindersaint stepped away from the pulpit and descended the stairs from the stage. He stood towering over the wild Gutlandian.
He was found in the Piran.
Cindersaint pointed at the elderly Gutlandian. A collective gasp rose.
That's right, brothers and sisters. Those vicious cannibals have come to our precious land, our Piran, and you wouldn't believe what he was doing. He was engaging in cannibalism.
Liar, the old man screamed, thrashing about. You better not lay a hand on me. Mama Grin will avenge me. Cindersaint's eyes fell on him. The intensity of his gaze quieted the old man.
Bring him over to me.
The 2 men dragged the poor soul over to the priest and pushed him down to his knees.
Now we will show them what happens when they defy the flame.
The priest looked out at his people, then uttered,
Ignivar,
and his hand ignited with a raucous flame.
With the power vested in me, I sentence you to die by fire,
Cindersaint commanded, before laying his flaming hand onto the man's head. The old man, caught fire. His screams echoed throughout the church. The priest blew out the flame from his hand with a quick breath.
God rules me,
he said,
and I rule Piran.
The screams coming from the old man died as his flesh melted away.
Now my people go out 2 by 2 and convert the willing and ignite the heretics.
The massive doors opened, allowing the sunlight to flood inside the stale church. The pews of cloaked men and women emptied as they went out into the sands of Gilgamesh, 2 by 2, to deliver their brand of religion. Cindersaint watched until the last of them had left, and the heavy doors had been shuttered again.
So many fools,
he rasped, turning to his right-hand man, Antoniti.
They are deep under your spell, Lord Cindersaint,
Antoniti responded, head lowered, not daring to meet the eyes of his master. He followed his master into his hidden quarters deep within the belly of the massive church. Cindersaint slumped behind his mahogany desk and closed his eyes.
The rumors of this wired messiah, Ashware, were growing, threatening everything I've built here in Piran.
Yes,
Antoniti agreed.
I can't allow him to destroy my plans. Imagine him showing up here.
That would be disastrous.
Antoniti agreed.
It can't happen.
Antoniti stepped forward.
May I speak?
Of course.
The gods of the flames have shown you the way, Master. You and only you.
Antoniti pushed the hood of his cloak from his head to reveal a seared face that matched his master's. Cindersaint had put him through the fire as well, set him ablaze to test his loyalty. He had survived.
Let this Ashwire come, and we will crush him.
A slow smile crept across Cindersaint's swollen lips.
Thank you, Antoniti, for your wise and kind words, but I would like a moment myself.
Of course, Lord Cindersaint.
Antoniti bowed and backed out of the priest's chambers. Cindersaint's smile disappeared from his face. He poured gallons of gasoline from the drum next to the massive bathtub. He removed the heavy robe and stared at the charred, peeling flesh that clung to his body. His vestigial tail wiggled. He had been born with it. His parents had been devout Christian Scientists and had refused to have it removed. Their fanaticism had sentenced him to a torturous childhood. He'd been a pariah. Cindersaint turned away from the mirror and made his way over to the tub, flakes of dead, burned skin falling from him. He lowered himself into the gasoline bath. A hiss escaped his skin as steam rose from his pores. He moaned in relief as he soaked in the gasoline. He tried to relax, but apprehension pricked at him. They all believed a Messiah was coming. They wanted this Messiah. If there was one thing he knew, Messiahs could be dangerous. He lowered his head, submerging beneath the surface of the gasoline bath, and let his mind roam back in time. Malak Rane had lived a tortured early life. The only son of devout Christian Scientists, he'd been relegated to being the weird kid from an early age. One day, in the first grade, a bully had pulled his pants down as a prank, and that's when they discovered his vestigial tail. The bullying quickly became terrorism. It had gotten so bad, his parents had to take him out of public school. He'd been raised to believe sickness and pain were spiritual illusions, and the body was healed through faith. His mother's cancer, however, changed everything. She had breast cancer. His family prayed as one, and still the cancer grew. The doctors were emphatic that she would die unless treated. Still, they refused medical attention and they prayed. His mother's pain worsened until eventually Malak and his father were praying over her casket. With his mother's death, Malak began questioning the faith he'd grown up in. He secretly began scripture. His father became an abusive alcoholic, blaming Malak for everything bad in life. Both had been lost. Malak sought solace at a local church and Father August Pell. Pell had fed the boy and personally took him under his wing, while also abusing him. Pell secretly baptized him and defiled him. But Malak's thirst for ritual, structure, and forgiveness kept him glued to Father Pell. At 17, he entered the seminary and became an ordained priest at 27. For the first time in his life, Malak Rane found, if not happiness, at least contentment. He'd been a parish priest. Days filled with early morning meditation, daily mass, hearing confessions, and visiting the elderly. 8 years. For 8 years life had been this way, his way. Then there was the confession that changed it all. It had been an autumn Wednesday, the most beautiful day he could remember. Fall leaves danced as they fell from the trees, littering the ground in reds, yellows, and browns. Then he walked in. Father Rane had glanced at his watch. It had been 6:55 in the evening. He had inwardly groaned because he was about to leave for the day and have some dinner. 6:55. It was burned in his memory. Even now, when the clock struck 6:55 in the evening, he shuddered. It had been a well-dressed man, tall and angular, who walked with a smooth gait. He confidently made his way down the aisle. His gaze flicked in Father Ron's direction before disappearing inside of the confessional.
It has been more than 30 years since my last confession.
God is listening.
Father Rane said calmly.
The world is a wicked, wicked place. Greed, degeneracy, hatred. I fear there is no hope. I want to change that.
Confess to God, son. What do you confess?
Rane urged.
I confess to ending the world. I confess to delivering the red veil.
The man turned to Father Rane, and even with the screen between them, the man's ice-gray eyes made him shudder. Father Rane stumbled out of the box in time to watch the man make his way up the aisle. He stopped abruptly, a hand on the double doors. He turned, glancing around the church with a wistful look before exiting. Father Rane finished up and grabbed his jacket and headed out into the crisp autumn night. As he walked, he couldn't get the last confession out of his mind. It made his skin crawl. The black, slicked-back hair with the brush of silver at the temples, the pale, smooth skin, and those cold eyes. Then he caught sight of something on the newsstand that made him pause. There, on the cover of Time magazine, was the same face he'd seen in the confessional. Virek Halden. Father Rane paid for the magazine and flipped through the pages until he reached the profile on Halden and began reading. Virek Halden, founder and CEO of Citadel Industries, a diversified company whose focus was on being the largest software artificial intelligence company in the world. Here at Citadel, we are developing the future, Halden said. Artificial intelligence algorithms and machine learning models. We've created a program that we call Jacket that will be the future. It has already surpassed our wildest dreams, specifically in the area of social prediction algorithms. The reporter asked, "Don't you think a program that creates algorithms that specialize in predicting and shaping human behavior is unethical?" Halden smiled and abruptly ended the interview. Father Rane folded the magazine under his arm and continued walking. The alarm that vibrated his phone shocked him. Then the sky rumbled.
Get the fuck out of my way!
a man yelled, shoving past Rane and sprinting away. Father Rane noticed that everyone was running, sheer panic on their faces. Father Rane slipped inside of a diner.
What's going on out there?
The waitress asked from behind the counter.
Not sure.
Rane answered, staring out of the window. She came from behind the counter to join him at the window. Their phones began blaring. The waitress covered her ears with her hands. A whistling noise screeched in the distance, growing closer to them. The waitress screamed. Father Rane turned toward her. The next thing he knew, he'd been thrown across the diner, landing behind the counter. Ears ringing, he felt the piercing pain of fire marching up his body. His lungs burned, and the flames grew as they fed on his flesh. Father Rane flailed wildly, but the flames were relentless. He crawled across the grease-slick tiles, heading for the door. He struggled across the threshold onto the sidewalk, where everything went black. The next morning, Father Rane awoke on the sidewalk drenched in water. Someone had put the fire out. His life had been spared. Every nerve ending fired with pain. He wasn't dead, but he wished he were. He scrambled to his feet.
Hello?
He tried to scream, but his voice was but a rasp.
Someone, please.
He limped among the rubble. It looked as if everyone in the world had been raptured, except him. Terrified, lost. Father Malak Rane headed to the only place he knew to go, the church. The 10-minute walk to the church was a blur, as if he were in a trance. Everything around the church had been reduced to rubble. Everything was crushed, except the church. The priest pushed open the heavy double doors. He'd walked midway down the aisle before he registered the people in the pews. Not many, 20 or so, but they were there, praying. They looked upon him with fear, like he was the devil himself. One woman screamed, another fainted. Father Rane had walked to the front of the church and began a homily. Father Malak Rane became Cindersaint, the fire prophet, Lord of the Embers. Cindersaint emerged from the bath with determination in his eyes. There was room for only one Messiah in Gilgamesh.
I am the one true servant of God,
he growled. Thank you for listening to Afterland Desolate on Bedlam Audio.